Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the Two Jew Crew podcast. So we're going to start off, Itai.
Good morning, yes. I feel like in one of these old school hip hop bands, two Jew crew. It's like Run DMC or Beastie Boys, no?
Yeah, we're going to start off something very interesting. Is that this week, the 7 weeks after Pesach, after Passover, we count the Omer. You know the Omer?
Omer,
Ever heard of it?
yes.
Yeah. Until we get to Shavuot and Shavuos. And each of the weeks, each of the days represent a certain characteristic that we have to refine, right? And we say in the verse "Usfartem lachem," and you should count for you. But if you think the second, if you want to call it, Rebbe of Chassidut, he said he used to focus on even actually the fifth Chabad Rebbe used to focus on Usfartem, and we should count. That it's very, very important, that we should count each day. Now, what does it mean to count each day, Itai? Do you know what it means?
Tell me, I would like to know what it means.
Count each day doesn't mean one and it's over. It means, have we been productive that day? Have we made that day shine? Right? Have we made it? Each day can just go by without even noticing it. Like I think we spoke last time
about repetition.
About repetition.
About how many people are getting also locked in the routine, being on a treadmill.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And this week, and especially when we're coming up to the giving of the Torah, which is Shavuot, yeah, which is very interesting because do you know nowhere in the Bible you will find that it's the celebration of the giving of the Torah.
Okay.
It's a rabbinical, if you want to call it, but it just says that after Pesach, after Passover, you should count 7 weeks, and that should be we're not. It's interesting that
No, it is. No, I'm listening.
And but that's not the point I wanted to say. I just wanted to focus on the fact that it says, and you should count, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to focus on the goal, even though the goal is important, but the preparation is within itself a goal within itself.
Yes, I understand. Every day counts.
Yeah, every day. So you have to make
every day, and every day counts.
Exactly. You have to make every single day count. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the time we don't.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
So these 7 weeks now, we need to focus on this idea that we need to make things count.
That's a general thing, of course. It's not just the Torah, but everything is Torah, you say.
Yeah, everything is Torah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, everything is Torah. And we have to make things count. So how do we make things count, Itai? How do we make things? How do we be different tomorrow or today than we were yesterday? If you're looking at your day today and it's exactly the same as yesterday, we didn't make the day count.
I think it depends. If you have a certain method, if you are methodical about something and you create yourself a routine where you know what you are doing, where you are heading, and you do, again, coming back to the idea of repetition. Let's say that you have to practice certain exercises, and you did it yesterday, you will have to do it today. So you are repeating the same action, but you're still evolving. I don't think that you are not evolving. I don't see stagnation there or de-evolution due to stagnation.
100%. But that routine is making you grow.
Yes, exactly.
I think we're talking about
You're talking, yes. No, please explain. I would like to.
No, I think it's the routine has to go. I'm not saying that you can't do routine. It's like whether the routine is growth or whether the routine is destruction.
Don't be flat about your time. I understand.
Exactly.
Many people are wasting their time, and they let believe as well that, because I remember they used to say, they still probably say it, but maybe in different ways. They say time equals money. If people think like that, it's a big mistake.
What, the time equals money?
Yes.
But doesn't that give an importance to time?
Well, maybe for people today, they think money is the most important thing in the world. Not to me. I don't look at it like that. I think it's a false comparison. I think that if you count your time, or you regard your time by the value of money, then you're wasting your time most of the time. I'm not saying that money is unnecessary, but you understand me. If that's the yardstick for you to regard your time as productive or not, you got a problem. That's the way I look at it anyway.
I understand, but the idea of money, of time being money, is not a bad idea. It's just whether that's what's important to
Maybe
you.
it's a necessary idea. I don't know. It's probably necessary to say that the sum of your time is has to be equal money. Sum of time has to equal money because that's the way it is. But I don't think it's. But people made it as the measurement of time. For them, it's okay. If you made money in this time, you haven't wasted the time. A lot of time when I speak, I'll tell you something. Even indirectly, sometimes I speak with people, and they say to me, if I got, let's say, certain skill that I developed, and I say, okay, that's great, but what's the point? If you haven't managed, like if you do an art,
Yeah,
and you're a good artist,
yeah,
if you haven't managed to translate it to money or to fame, what's the point? That's how people look at it. I
yeah.
don't. By the
I
way,
don't think. I don't agree
people.
with that.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
think. I think the completion of the art
Absolutely.
is the is the goal itself.
It's a necessity. For me, I can tell you, as someone who likes producing art, it's another thing which is very therapeutic. It's a form of meditation, coming back to yesterday, not necessarily about the repetition or the repetitive nature of it, but more about the idea that actually engaging in something which is so deep. It's almost like you're disconnecting and you allow your subconscious to lead you. You understand? So this is a process that is very important to me. So I do it, and I will do it regardless. And so even if I had no means, no tools, nothing, I don't know if I was on a deserted island, I would do it on the sand.
Mm,
I think.
I see.
You can find better ways to do it anyway, even on deserted island. But you see the point. So I do it out of a true necessity.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, let's say people even can get very impressed by that. Even when they're more impressed, it's more likely that they are going to criticize it or to try to create equivalence between that and money. They say, okay, but what's the point?
Yeah.
Show me what is.
No, I understand. I think just I think when it does produce money and success,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a very interesting thing. You want to know something interesting? Rabbi Yehuda Anasi,
Mm-hmm.
who compiled the Mishnah, was a millionaire. In his day, probably nowadays, probably a billionaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very wealthy. Now, it's explained in Chassidut that how do you know that your spirituality is at its optimum when your physicality is also at the optimum? Because then it's a rounded. Then it shows that you're because um, the way that Hashem God created the world was that. Uh, Physicality on the one hand looks like an hindrance, looks like a it's coming to a pose. That's why we see there were many people in history who used to like go to the forest and cut themselves off. Or you have um, these individuals that they were called I think they're called poshrim. These were individuals who used to like only focus on the spirituality. There's actually a
Porshim.
Porshim, yeah,
Porshim,
yeah.
yeah.
There's actually a funny story, yeah, about a guy who wanted to one they say, I don't know if the story is true, but I read the story in the Baal Shem Tov books. Maybe it's from another Rebbe, I don't know. So he wanted to have an engagement with a very high spiritual rabbi who comes once in a while, Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. Yeah.
Okay.
So he read somewhere.
He went to the very top. Huh?
So that's what he wanted to have this meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did he do? So he read in a book that the way you do it is that you have to seclude yourself and from everybody else, and mumble words or whatever, mumble certain tehillim, I don't know, yeah. So that's what he did. So he locked himself away for 6 weeks. Anyway, came the 6 weeks. He was expecting to see Elijah the prophet, yeah,
Okay.
and he never came. So it's very, very sad. So what did he do? He started to seek advice. Anyway, he came to the Baal Shem Tov and he said, I don't understand. I locked myself away for 6 weeks. I stood in the corner, never spoke to anybody, mind my own business, did exactly what it said. And, obviously, we're saying words that connect to God. And, I never had the zechus of Elijah the prophet come. So, the Baal Shem Tov said to him, I'll tell you, come with me, I'll show you something interesting. Where did he take him? He took him to a barn. And what did he see? He's pointing a horse in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, see that horse? He says, he's been sitting here for longer than 6 weeks. Right? Not talking to anybody. And if you see, look, his lips are moving. And the fact that whatever his lips are moving, because they're chewing hay, they see serving God more than you were.
Yeah, I've heard this story somewhere.
Yeah,
But I remember. No, it's fantastic.
And that's how the story ends. And everybody can understand what the Baal Shem Tov was trying to tell him. That's not the main focus. That's not the tachlis. So what I'm trying to say is that, so we see that on the one hand, it's good not to be totally indulgent in materiality.
But physicality is necessary. It's
necessary. It's the reason why the whole world was created. It's the reason why Hashem created the whole world.
It's the gravity against the soul in order to strengthen the soul. This is the test.
No, it's even more than that. It's even more than that. It's to actually, the soul, this is what's beautiful about it. The soul, the source of the body is actually higher than the soul. It actually comes from a higher place.
Okay.
When God created the world, he could have created us all spiritual beings, right? But he didn't. He created physicality because that's what he wanted. Essentially, God but he created physicality because he wanted something that seemingly looks independent and something that's totally separate, seems separate. Yeah, not like a soul. If I showed you a soul, you can see a connection between the soul and God.
Of course, I understand.
And he wanted that to be elevated in a way and transformed to show you that actually this piece of physicality is actually part of God, just like the soul is, And therefore, on that, because the main focus is in Judaism, from a Hasidic perspective, is the physicality to transform it. So therefore, if you have success spiritually, but no success physically, it means that your spirituality is not 100%.
I understand. They should work in unison.
It should work in unison. It should exactly, which is a very interesting Hasidic concept. So some people think, the fact that it doesn't translate into money or to physical success, I'm going to be blunt, it means that you're not working hard enough on the spiritual and emotional side to get that side highs that it does have an effect on the physical. Now, it works opposite. Sometimes, you're going to tell me, but what about people who have lots of money and very success physically? Does that mean that they're very high spiritually? No. It just means that they are connecting to the wrong side of physicality and they're successful there. But if they're not keeping Torah mitzvahs, being good individuals and that, then you understand? So we need both of these. And that's why Yehuda Anasi was very wealthy. That's why a lot of big tzaddikim gamurim, complete tzaddikim, have
very
both
righteous people,
both wealth in spirituality and wealth in physicality. What do you say about that, Itai?
No, it makes. I can understand where it makes sense. I think that from what I understand about Hasidut, Baal Shem Tov especially, he came out against. Maybe I say it too in a radical way, but I guess he didn't like the idea of people living in ivory towers, meaning spiritually speaking.
Correct.
That people are disconnecting themselves from reality, from everyone else, from physical existence, and they think that that's the way that they should worship God.
Correct. Even though in the beginning of his life he did spend a lot of time in the forest himself, but he never cut himself off.
I do personally. I do appreciate someone who actually dedicate his life. You see, I'm not even now talking about Shem Tov of, let's say, spirituality or religious Jews, but there was a mathematician in the 20th century by the name of Paul Erdos, Hungarian Jew, and he dedicated all his life to mathematics. And there is no mathematician in history more prolific than this man.
What's his name?
Paul Erdos. Erdos, it's Erdos. It's Hungarian, so that's hence the difficult the pronunciation and the way it's written. Paul Erdos. No. E-R. Yeah, you found it there. Yeah. Erdos. You say Erdos. Yeah, that's the name. That's how you pronounce it. So this man was an Hungarian Jew. He lived through the turmoils of Second World War as well. He was a stateless person, I think, at a certain point. He lived in Israel for a bit. He's the most prolific mathematician in history, even more prolific than Leonhard Euler, the Swiss, who was probably the greatest mathematician of them all, or at least one of the greatest mathematicians. And
it says that he used to sleep 3 hours a night.
Yes, but listen to this. This guy had no belongings. All he had in his life was a suitcase and one of these supermarket bag. That's all his belongings. And he used to travel between places. All he cared about is actually traveling between places, countries, and knocking on the doors of great mathematicians. And he had, of course, great a lot of respect. Everyone knew him as one of the greatest mathematicians.
He used to be this. I'm just reading of it. He used to be exactly like a Parish.
Yeah,
Exactly
the
like these
Polish,
types
yeah,
of
exactly. I
because
love it, by
he
the
used
way.
to earn his living. He used to go says over here. He had a little bit of money by being a guest lecturer here, and he got various mathematical
Yeah,
work to find.
and
He used to travel around.
that's what he used to do.
Right?
That's the genius of the man. Listen, he was not married. He didn't care even about. He said he didn't care not
Yeah.
about women, not about men, nothing. It's not like he was not homosexual.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. All he did was to travel with his suitcase and a bag, this sort of like Tesco bag, whatever you want to call it, the equivalent in Hungary, and he knocks on the doors of mathematicians all over the world. Let's say someone in Australia, he knows that he's specializing in a problem in mathematics, which he thinks this person can give him the answer to. He goes, knocks on the door. Oh, this is the great Paul Erdos. Of course, we got a room, we got a sofa. Come sleep here, sleep there. And he sits with him. Let's say he sits with him for I don't know 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever it takes, and they try to solve the problem. And that's how he lived his life. And I think it's amazing.
Can I read a bit of this? There's an interesting quote that he said.
Yeah, about mathematicians.
He says a mathematician is a device for turning coffee
into theorems. Yeah, I remember.
God may not play dice with the universe, but something strange is going on with the prime numbers.
Yes, he's right about it. We still don't know exactly what is the order of the prime numbers. Someone needs to figure out the Riemann hypothesis.
And then he said something else. I hope we'll be able to solve these problems before we leave.
Yes, well, he left already, if that's what he meant. But he left a great legacy. There is a man, I forgot exactly the Ronald Graham, a mathematician. He's not alive anymore, and he's an American. He actually, at certain point, he came up with the biggest number known to humanity. Every now and then, they try to find the biggest number. Of course, numbers are infinite.
Yeah, listen to this. Sorry, I've got to disturb you. I just read a
It's a Jew, man. It's a
Jewish
humor.
Quote.
Yes.
This is great. He says there are 3 signs of, I don't know if it's senility or senility. I mean, you're going crazy.
Yeah.
The first sign is that a man forgets his theorems. Okay. That's the first sign. The second sign is if he gets to zip up.
Yeah.
The third sign is if he gets to zip down.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I'll tell you something. This man had a great sense of humor, and you can see the Jewish sense of humor in him.
Look what he says here. He says, just on your point, he says property is a nuisance.
I know. I love it. This is for me extremely romantic, but it's also practical.
And he was so right on this. He says television is something the Russians invented to destroy American education.
To dumbify them, and it dumbify
and
everyone.
It's exactly.
And the Israelis are the dumbest of them all. Sorry, I'm in Israel because they watch television. Throw your televisions. Listen, Rabbi, I have to ask you a question.
The Rebbe said throw all your TVs out.
Have you ever had a television?
When I was young, I did. But no, we don't have a TV. It's a waste of time.
Baruch Hashem. Thanks God for anyone who doesn't understand English. Throw your televisions. No, terrible, man. I cannot stand television, especially in Israel. Oh my God, this is the bread and circuses, the Roman Empire. I mean, the lowest of the low. Seriously, wow.
So he's a
Caligula.
He died in Poland. He lived in Poland. Well,
he lived everywhere. He lived in Israel as well. He was in America, I think, for some time. He was a stateless person. He was a different individual altogether. I mean, he had so much to say about everything, not just about
quite remarkable. So he was a Polish. He was
Polish, yeah. And listen, I got to tell you. So Ronald Graham, I believe his name, the great mathematician, he dedicated a room in his place just for the writings and for the research. Ronald Graham, I believe his surname is Graham, definitely, but I believe the private name was first name. I mean, sorry.
He was an American mathematician.
Yes, exactly. So I was right about it. He dedicated a room to the mathematical essays of Erdos, because he knew that Erdos is not going to do it, right? He got nothing, no place.
Wow, he only recently died.
Oh, okay. Yes, I saw him actually being interviewed by Numberphile. Very good channel, by the way. Very, very good channel. Got to give them the views.
So let me ask you a question on mathematicians. Have you ever heard of I'll tell you the name. He was a very famous mathematician. Well, I don't know if he was. Maybe
maybe I know.
Which I went to his burial place. His name was Yisrael Aryeh Leib. You ever heard of him?
No.
You've never heard? Okay. So he was a mathematician. He was actually the Rebbe's brother.
Oh, okay. But he was a mathematician. That was his profession.
He was a mathematician. And There is a very interesting video. Is that when he passed away in 1950 or something, right? On Yud Gimel Iyar, which was actually a couple of days ago. Well, is it a couple of days ago? Actually, I think we're coming up to it. Today's date is no. Today's date is might be even today's day is 10th of year. Today's the 10th. That means in 2 days it's going to be his yahrzeit.
Okay. Which is
when he passed away.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, whether he was religious or not religious, I'm not sure.
Oh, really? It was.
But he was a mathematician, and he had a daughter.
Tell me the name
and
again.
he lived in Liverpool.
And the name again of the man?
Ariel Leib.
I'm going to check.
He was and he wrote. He was a mathematician. Okay. Now, he did what he did was, which you might, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I heard once the Rebbe say, and you can watch the video. He basically had another mathematician at his talks, and he had a whole bunch after his brother passed away. He probably as an inheritance, he got all his papers, right?
A lot of papers. Yeah. Usually mathematicians. That's what.
So he had a whole bunch of papers, and things were missing from it or whatever. So he asked this other mathematician. You see in the video today, he never said who it was. He basically said, "I've got this maths work, which I gave to you," and and the mathematician said, "Yes, I looked at it. I can see that there's a lot of things missing." So the Rebbe said he's looking for somebody which he'll pay for who can fill in the missing parts of it and create like a book, I don't know, to make sense of it. So the guy said he would do it. And then the Rebbe said, it's actually my brother who did it. And he said that he was an independent thinker, meaning he never used, listen to this, but you'll appreciate it as a lover of maths, maybe if, he said he was an independent thinker, that he used to, all his maths theorems, whatever he did, I don't know. It's something that I'll try to look for the book that maybe you can read. He never used, it seems to be suggesting, and you'll tell me if it's right or wrong, that when it comes to maths, it's similar to chess, where you can read a whole bunch of maths books, and then from those different maths, the way they style, create a new set of theorems. Is that true or not?
Definitely a lot of theorems.
Like it's backed on what other people say.
No, of course, you build it on top of other people.
So the Rebbe said about his brother that he was a mathematician that never looked at all his own.
You can listen.
You understand what I'm saying?
Of
that
course.
He didn't like looking at other mathematicians' books.
I tell you what, I doubt if that he never seen that he just invented math, everything from scratch or from the beginning. He definitely had some background, but I can understand what you're talking about.
The mathematician said yes, he could tell from his writings that he was very independent.
No, you can listen.
It could mean that
I know exactly.
In my brain, I was thinking like let's say conventional math they called energy with, I don't know, they used an E. He called it something. I don't know.
Let me give you a very good example. Now let me. I'll explain to you. I'll give you my take. It's very possible that someone, especially someone who is talented with mathematics, and it's not unusual, it did happen, that he can come up with theorems, and he doesn't need to read Pythagoras to understand how to prove Pythagoras if you realize the relationship. I mean, you can show someone. Let me explain something. The Chinese, for example, they say that they knew about the Pythagoras with the relationship between the sides in a
so did the Talmud also.
Okay, in a right angle triangle.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't care about proving it. The Greeks, that's the greatness of the Greek golden age of mathematicians. They cared about proving something mathematically.
Right.
The rigor of proving something mathematically, which means that it's going to be valid for all cases of that particular theorem. So it's possible, and I think that Albert Einstein, when he was young, even before he was a teenager, he managed to prove certain things that by himself that you can probably find in the book of Euclid, which is the most important, most fundamental, and most important book was ever written about mathematics. Yes, it was written 23 centuries ago, I believe, and Euclid compiled some of the information. Some of it came by himself. It came from him. And it's fantastic. It's geometry, but it's not just geometry. It's number theory. It's the basis for everything. But most importantly, it's about proving something.
Yeah.
creating now, putting the axioms and propositions and whatever is needed. So that's possible. But let me give you another story which is remarkable, by the way. There was a mathematician, an Indian man, who was born in the end of the 19th century. His name was Ramanujan, the surname Ramanujan. He came from a very poor background, I think from Sri Lanka, actually. He was from Sri Lankan
By the way, he
heritage.
wasn't just a mathematician. Just to go back before we go, he was. I'm just reading over here. He was also a theoretical physicist,
Makes sense.
and he was part of the department of the University of Liverpool.
Look.
So there's definitely some stuff that he wrote, which if I can get, I'll bring it to you.
When it comes to theoretical physics, it makes sense. It's got a strong relationship with mathematics because this is another field where you have to create thought experiments. This is the field of
Einstein was a theorist.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sorry. So back.
So this is not like with the empirical physicist. It's more about making tests in the laboratory. This is more about it's more abstract. It relates better with mathematics.
Yeah.
But coming back to the story about Ramanujan, who is a bit of a mathematics superstar. Yeah. He hasn't lived too long, unfortunately. Ramanujan. Wait, just listen.
Yeah.
But he was an Indian young boy who had incredible ability in mathematics.
Right.
But he was very poor, so he didn't have the means. He managed to get hold of a book that was written more or less around the same time that he was born.
I think did they make a movie?
Yes.
I watched it. Very good.
Yes, with Jeremy Irons playing Hardy, the English mathematician.
Yes.
Who received him, I believe, in Cambridge. Yes.
Yes, I watched it. Okay. Great movie.
So Ramanujan, the story. I haven't watched the film, but I know about Ramanujan. He is a guy, actually a young man, who had such an incredible ability to mathematics that he sent a letter to Hardy, who received probably a million letters from amateurs or mathematicians all over, and he showed him certain theorems and ideas that came, as you said, from his own mind. He created his own ways around mathematics.
Yeah, he was a bit discriminated when he was in Cambridge. No, it was Cambridge.
I don't know, man. Everything today is about discrimination.
No, but I'm saying that
maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it will make sense for an Indian in the 1940s.
I will not be surprised.
1920s.
But his ability was.
He left his wife, or his wife.
I'm not sure if he was married. I'm not really. You see, that's the thing. I'm versed with some of the history of the man. I'm more interested in his mathematics. But the thing is that he actually is actually a good case when you can apply what you said to his achievements.
Yeah,
he is a guy that came up with a lot of original ideas and a lot of his own ways.
Yeah,
around mathematics. So it is possible. It's very interesting because for me this is almost on a level of prophecy. I'm not comparing it with Leavdil, yes, I'm not comparing it with holy prophecies, but there is something about it that is some people got such an incredible talent for numbers.
Yeah.
That it's almost like they receive it. He said that you used to receive it from God, from gods, whatever you believe. So.
Yeah.
But you understand, this is just it transcended normal procedures of thinking, if there is anything like that.
No, yeah,
because this talent was just outstanding.
Yeah. I remember. Listen, if the movie's true, right? They didn't want to give him a prize actually because of his.
I don't know. I think look, he's very famous. I think that even in popular culture, people know about him. You watched the film. I haven't watched the film. I know
it's
about.
It's a good film. It's a very good film. I think it's an English-based film, but it's a good film.
But just listen to this. This is important. Okay, so I think that we more or less created the parallels here to what you to the story that you came up with. But I'm just saying that the man had a great ability with numbers, which is again prophetic in some ways. Yeah,
I'm not sure what you mean by prophetic, but it's definitely like if you
it's almost connected with a source that is very high. It's like knowing something without even. It's not a savant. You see, it's not like one of these savant people who actually can tell you recite the pi with 20,000 digits, and then they don't really know what to do with this information.
Correct. It's when
he had the talent as well to mathematics. He knew what he is trying to achieve. He was creative as well. But it's just
knowing. It's going back to it's like knowing the essence of a subject. Once you have a connection with the essence of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Once the idea is who you are, then you have that ability not just to regurgitate numbers, but to figure out how they work. I remember learning that. I remember, you know what it's like. If you learn Shulchan Aruch, yeah, Code of Jewish Law, it's very similar to that. It is. Do you know that?
Yeah,
Because you
of
can learn
course.
when you start learning, you don't know what you're talking about. You're trying to figure out what it's saying. Then you learn it again. Okay. Then it starts, okay, opening up this picture. Eventually, after learning it 10, 20 times or whatever, you start to see patterns, right? These patterns start to develop, you know? And this section over here, you can see how it's totally related to another section. You see the same continuous patterns.
I understand that, and
I think that's the prophetic, and the prophetic, because once you become accustomed to these patterns, your nature changes according to those patterns. Because when somebody asks you a question, you follow the pattern,
I understand.
or you can figure out the pattern. You know, you look at something else. You know, so I'm saying it's something like that.
I absolutely understand you. I think this is something. Even it makes sense, and that might be the case, but it's almost beyond that. It's like a Fermat's last theorem. The French mathematician, amateur mathematician, who had an ability with numbers that is just unexplainable. But I want to tell you a story that has to do with God and mathematics and Hardy. Hardy is the man who received Ramanujan to Cambridge.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a good story. You would like it, I think.
If
So,
it's in the movie, I know it. I'm joking. Go ahead.
what? Okay, no,
Go,
I'm
go,
not sure
go.
if they, maybe they,
Go
maybe
ahead.
they, but they, if they, you know what, if they tell you the story in the movie, I think it's in the benefit of the agenda, because I believe that there is agenda in most films, that they will tell you only half of the story, the half that they like. I'll tell you the complete story. It's not that long, but anyway, listen. So Hardy wrote, I think it was a New Year resolutions. One of these New Year, you know, people doing it. I think it was half a joke, but anyway, he wrote to himself few points like I want to climb the Mount Everest or something like that. But then he also wrote, I would like to find a good proof that God does not exist, a proof which is going to be easy enough for everyone to understand.
Who said this?
Hardy.
Hardy.
Yes, Hardy. Yeah, it's my Israeli accent. You know, age doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Listen. So he comes and he says, I want to make a way. I want to find a proof like a proper mathematician that he was a great modern mathematician, maybe the most important in this country at that age. And he said, I will prove that God does not exist. That's at least what he wanted to do.
Right.
Okay. So then, but listen to this story. Apparently, he needed to travel once, and I think he needed to cross the channel. Okay, and he hated water. He was very afraid of going on boats. That was a real serious fear for him. So what he did is like that. He sent a letter to one of his colleagues, and he suggested in the letter that he managed to prove the Riemann hypothesis. Now, the Riemann hypothesis is the most luxurious prize in mathematics, even by this day. So he hasn't managed to prove it. He lied. Okay, so he sent it to one of his colleagues, and then he went on the boat. He made the trip. He was safe. Everything was good. And then his colleague asked him, "Did you manage to? I mean, think about this. Is a historical moment." He said, "Did you manage to prove? Did you manage to prove?" He said, "No, I lied." He said, how dare you lie or something like that? He said, because I believe that if I lie, if I tell you that I prove Riemann hypothesis, God will never allow me to drown, knowing that I said something like that, and the secret goes with me to the to the abyss.
To the abyss.
You understand? I don't. You want to prove that God does not. You understand the point anyway. I don't need to explain it. But he said God will not allow a man to drown if he said that he proved the Riemann hypothesis, especially a mathematician on the scale of Hardy, because any other mathematician, people will say, "Oh, come on, who cares?" But someone like Hardy says it, So.
I understand.
So he was not really an atheist after all. I mean, he's a cherry picked his atheism. Like most atheists.
Yeah.
They don't exist anyway. They think they exist. They only exist in their own minds, I think. Yes, Rabbi. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's.
You read about Hardy.
No, I'm just every time you mention a mathematician or something, I'm just looking it up. But I just like the idea.
It's a very colorful history. Look, these people are very colorful people. People think about mathematicians as a very gray, pale type of individuals. They are very colorful people, very eccentric.
Who, the mathematicians?
Mathematicians, boxers, mathematicians.
We're talking about how people are seclude themselves. Boy shows. People who seclude themselves. I think the only mathematician, the only famous mathematician, if you ask anybody, which is really he was really a theoretical physicist.
Yeah, Albert Einstein.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but Albert Einstein was not a
He
mathematician,
was
even though he was a very good
physicist.
mathematician.
He was
Yeah.
a physicist. He's a
Newton,
theoretic.
Newton, if anything, was a great mathematician and a great physicist. Newton is probably the greatest scientist of modern era.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
Newton was the man. If you already speak about someone who managed to get to the
But
highest
was he a
level,
poacher or not? Was he a
he was. Oh wow, yeah. Listen, from what I've heard about him, he was a very.
Because Einstein wasn't such a. Einstein
No,
was not.
he loved women. He loved
He was.
celebrating. He was a
Yeah.
celebrity. He
Yeah.
enjoyed being a celebrity. It's interesting. Someone said, there was a great theoretical physicist, very important in the revolution of quantum mechanics, Paul Dirac. Paul Dirac from this country. His father was French, so that's why he got the name Dirac.
Yeah.
And someone said about him, this man was as great as Albert Einstein, and I think that a lot of physicists would agree that he was no less than Albert Einstein, but he just didn't have the right haircut. You understand? So no
Boris
one,
Johnson.
yeah, exactly. No one cared about him, as much as they cared. Einstein was a character. He also could come with a lot of great quotes, sound bites, how you call them.
Yeah.
So he came with a lot of them, and Dirac was a very introverted, timid individual. I saw an interview with him. Apparently, they managed to capture him on camera.
Why do you think they? Why do you think? Do you think because they think they're just more brilliant than anybody else, or do you just think that they just want to have time to themselves to think about these things, or they're just very arrogant that they just don't feel that anybody can contribute to their growth from an arrogant point of view? So what element is it? A humble element? I don't think so. Is it a arrogant? I do think so. That's my opinion. Or is it just those are the two.
I'll tell you something. I think that today, if you speak about what is happening today, and especially when theoretical physics became such a popular subject, and it's a very sexy subject as well. So this is why you can see so many books, and everything is quantum. People don't understand what they're talking about. They do quantum yoga. They do quantum everything.
No, but I'm asking about
but
the person.
I give you again. I know the answer. I know what you ask. I'm just trying to explain. I'm sorry for that. And the point is that many people today, a lot of physicists, I think, would be arrogant. As you said, today it's probably theoretical physics allows a lot of people so much, in a way, so much freedom that they come up. Everyone thinks he comes up with a theory is going to be the next Albert Einstein, or not everyone. Sorry, but you know what I mean in general. So there is arrogancy in that. But I don't think that Dirac was an arrogant man. From what I understand, he grew up with a very dominant father, and his father didn't allow them to speak as kids. So he grew up as a very quiet individual. And there is even a story that someone came to him, a woman, I think, they was already very famous physicist, a lecturer, and she said to Dirac, I bet that I can make you say at least 3 words, because he hardly ever talked. So he told her, you lose.
I get it.
You see? So that's the thing. He was a very, very shy person, I think, and it was a guy who really counted his words very carefully. And it reminds me of Joe Louis, the boxer, the heavyweight champion of the world, who was the greatest heavyweight in my opinion. Some of his silence was by design, unfortunately, but he was also a silent individual. And when he talked, it meant something. But just a second, just about Albert Einstein was the opposite. Einstein was a very talkative person. He liked the attention. I don't know if he was arrogant. He was just he was a colorful individual. Maybe he was arrogant.
But I think, no, I'm not talking about, let me rephrase the question or make it a little bit deeper. Not that, obviously, I'm not talking about the way they, Albert Einstein could be arrogant if he's flashy, and the guy could be silent and also arrogant. What I'm talking about is like this. When you deal with intellectual subjects, when you deal with intellectual people, most of the intellectual people I've had a discussion with, usually 9 times out of 10,
tend to be arrogant, or
tend to think that they are the only ones who understand something. They're the only ones that nobody can contribute to their intellect. They don't let anybody in because you're just too stupid.
And it makes sense, and it's probably true. Again,
I don't know. Okay, so this is what. So we have you saying is probably true, right? So we have a very interesting Mishnah that says.
I'll give you an example.
It says who's a wise person. Right? There's many different things. Who's a wise person that can learn from every single individual? So from that quote, if that quote is true, which I believe is true, so no matter how brilliant the person is in mathematics, he's stupid.
I agree with you. No, you've seen something. You've seen things like that.
So I think that a lot of this shirus or this poisher, this cutting yourself off and not and not, let's say, sitting around, and is, I think, because when you're dealing with pure intellect itself is very cold and very arrogant. 9 times out of 10, I think it's pure arrogance, and I think more would be achieved in the world from a mathematical point of view if it was done, if each one would appreciate that somebody else can add to the puzzle. Like, look how much, let's say, look how much Gemara, look how much from the Jewish intellectual point of view has grown. Why has it grown so rapidly, like a flower? Why is it
Because of the collaboration.
Because of the collaboration, exactly.
Because it's a debate for the sake of evidence.
There's not one person who says this is the be all, and
it's not intellectual competition. It's not indulgent in being the greatest intellectual in the room.
Correct, and that you don't see that anybody can offer something to you. That even the stupidest person well, there's no such thing as stupid people, but maybe they are. But I'm saying in general, even the guy who, let's say, doesn't have the mathematical skills, he can also contribute mathematically.
No, I agree with you. Look, and I don't like
if you believe that mathematics are ones and zeros.
Listen, I'll tell you. No. Let me tell you my opinion. First, you're probably correct about it. There are a lot of arrogant people. I think that some of the real greats are not arrogant. Let me give you an example. The guy who actually managed to prove Poincare conjecture. One of the only problem out of the 7 millennium problems, that each one of them equals $1 million in prize money. And this guy Perelman, Misha, I think his name, no, Gregory Perelman, Misha. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So Perelman is a good example of someone who refused the money, refused the Fields Medal, which is equivalent to Nobel Prize, and he doesn't want to give any interview as well. And this guy was
that could be arrogant.
But wait, it can be. But his colleagues said that he is always, and I think that it's probably correct, that he didn't even make something. He didn't look at himself as a great mathematician. He said he was very humble in the way that he approached. Sometimes he used to say about certain achievements, oh yeah, this is okay, this is fine, but they realized it's much greater than what he wanted to admit it was. Maybe you can call it arrogance as well.
I think it is. I think it's
maybe
100%.
Maybe it is.
I do. I think it is arrogance, and I think that if the scientific world would just release themselves, not just scientific world or mathematics, I think just people who think that they are highly intellectual are able to have a bit of self-reflection.
I agree with
self-reflection and realize that that you might think you're intelligent, but embrace somebody else who's also intelligent, and embrace other people who might not be as intelligent but can also contribute. The problem, one of the biggest problems we had in the last 3-4 years, is pure scientific arrogance. Absolutely,
it's more than that. Listen,
arrogance,
100%,
and that is why people are shutting them all down. When I don't want to hear what a scientist has to say anymore. You know how many times the scientists have told me the world's going to end because of global warming?
No, but this is, of course.
What do you mean? These are intellectual individuals who don't want to open their minds.
These people, I
don't see there's a difference. I don't see there's a difference at all. This is an attitude that is amongst the scientific and mathematical world.
You're right. Listen, let me explain my point. It's not that I disagree with you. All I'm saying is that for me, science today lost its credibility, most of it. What you're talking about...
That's only because you don't like what it's spewing.
No, but the people themselves, and yes, they are arrogant as well on top of it. It's not what I like or don't like. I just disagree with that, I think, based on evidence. But listen, 1 second. Just listen. I'm sorry. I'm stopping you. Okay, you go.
No. I'm challenging you. My brain works too quick. So by the time you finish your point, I might forget. But carry on.
I need to say something. No,
yeah.
It's not that I disagree with you. Edward Teller, who is considered to be the father of the hydrogen bomb, very involved in the American program, and created the most devastating weapon in history. A Jewish guy from Hungary, and he was also very involved in politics because of his power, because of what he created. You understand? He had a lot of interviews. He's being interviewed quite a bit, and he was asked in one of these shows about politics, about certain opinions he has, and he said, what is the problem is that my colleagues, the scientists, they think they know everything better than anyone else. So they think that because they know about relativity of Einstein, they know about politics. They know about social science. They know about everything.
Sociology, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
exactly. You
understand. I
understand?
understand.
So he said exactly what you say, and I
I'm
believe
saying
the
something.
same.
I'm saying something even more than that.
Yeah.
I'm saying more than that. Yes, I agree. I agree. Who was it? Teller? Who said that?
Edward Teller.
Edward Teller, basically, he's right. That some people think that if you have a mastery in mathematics, that you
Yeah,
understand
they know about
everything else.
everything. That's what they want to design in
Fine.
the world. Yes, and
That that could be right.
engineer
That
the
could be right
society.
or wrong. Obviously, yeah, fine. Yeah, but I'm saying something else. I'm saying even in the subject that they do know,
Mm-hmm.
they are completely arrogant, and that they are probably causing more damage from their arrogance. And that's the situation we
I
find in.
don't
And
disagree.
I don't believe, just to let you know, the fact that nowadays, the fact that you like, let's even take Newton. I don't know Newton at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have no idea. He lived in the 1600s, right? 1640. I don't know when he lived, right? Something like that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Even take Einstein, take all the great scientists. Yeah, I don't think the attitude has changed. The difference is now, the reason why you don't like science, whatever, or you don't like them
It's not
because
that I don't
no,
like
no, 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 no,
science.
you don't
It
because
lost
they.
a lot of credibility by the representatives. They behave like
I think that the norm. I think that
science is
that
still
that
a very good
attitude.
method.
I think that attitude that you see nowadays is the same attitude that was existed in the 16,
No,
17, 18, 19, 2000.
no,
It
no, no.
existed
Today,
always.
yeah, if you talk
There's,
about sheer arrogancy, maybe, but
I'm talking about sheer
I'm
arrogance.
talking about post truth and scientific method. It doesn't sound like a scientific method at all. It
Okay,
sounds
fine.
like
Methodology, fine, but
politicians
it's okay.
in a scientific
Fine,
guise.
fine. But I even take the scientists, the mathematicians. Yes, they're brilliant. They'll wipe the floor with anybody.
But no, look,
But that
I'm
doesn't mean
exactly like you. They don't
that
have a
doesn't.
license to be arrogant, and it doesn't promote
But
anything.
we are exactly what we achieve is a fraction what could be achieved if they would be open-minded.
I agree. Look, what you see behind the Talmud. This is the greatest achievement. I agree with you. There is
It
no
doesn't.
disagreement.
No, no. So I just, and when it comes to global warming, I'm not saying whether I believe in it or not. I don't know. Yeah, I've got to worry about whether they're going to collect my bins in 2 weeks. That's what I've got to worry. Whether global warming is true, yeah, some days it's hot, some days it's cold. It's not an issue for me. But they did many times say with pure arrogance that by 2012 or 2021 I'd be underwater, and I'm still not. And these
You're not going to be underwater.
whatever it is, you know what I mean. It's like no one has the thing, the um, no one has the word is in bittel. I don't know how to say it in English. Bittel. How do you say bittel? The nullification, not the nullification. The anava. How do you say anava?
No, people are not humble anymore. You talk about humbling. People
Humbleness.
should be
That
humble. Yeah.
it could
You're right
happen. Or
about it.
maybe to create. Yeah, you understand. Even when it came to COVID and all these different things, it's just trust the science. That's the last thing I'm going.
They are the
That is
last
the
people I will
last
trust today.
people
Yeah.
based on experience. I'm going to trust
But
the science
Newton
is the
was
last.
not that type of scientist. Please, I mean, it
I'm not
was.
saying he was or wasn't. I'm not saying he was or
You
wasn't.
can maybe call him arrogant. Maybe
Could be.
he was. By the way,
Imagine what he could have invented if he was just open. Imagine he could have learned from somebody else. I'm not saying he did it. I didn't live in the
he
1600s.
achieved. He achieved. I think things that it's incredible to believe that a human being managed to achieve.
I'm
But
not saying he
definitely,
did
but
it.
that doesn't give him any permission to be arrogant, or doesn't make it doesn't give him any advantage because he was
I'm
arrogant.
just saying what the Mishnah says is that Ezehu Chacham, who is somebody who is wise, somebody who learns from every single person, even
Sure
from the dustbin cleaner, even from the.
I'm sure he was like that. By the way, I do believe that he was like that, but he was very single-minded, very tunnel-visioned about what he did, and he had a
You find
great.
philosophers more to do that than
Mathematicians
mathematicians.
are philosophers. That was natural science back then. Science is the way that people look at science today is so incorrect, in my opinion. That was natural science, natural philosophy. Sorry, that's how they called it, and that's what Newton used to be, a natural philosopher. And he was a great mathematician. I'll tell you something. He had a huge feud with Leibniz. That's the thing. He had a conflict with another guy because they fought between each other who invented calculus. Calculus. So
Just think about it. Yeah, even saying he had a fight about who
it
invented.
was a massive
One
historical
second, I understand, but who cares?
altercation.
If he invented it, so what? You understand? What? Why have I? Just think about what you just said.
No, I know. I'm not saying
It
it
makes
was a
no
bad,
sense.
no, but it was such an incredible innovation that
It's
he
like me
felt that he
saying.
has to get the credit for.
It's like even though it's like me saying, it's like me. I'm going to go now and make a big feud now because if you go look at now, who was the one who helped who was the original person to help the Jews in Ukraine during the Ukraine War? Who was the first one? Who was the thing?
Yeah.
Do you think my name gets mentioned?
No,
If it wasn't for me calling everybody up, nothing would have happened in those days. Do you understand? But I don't go and say make a big. Who cares? Doesn't make a difference.
but you know something. Let me tell you. I mean, again, I don't like comparing all his stuff, all his books or whatever with these type of things, despite the greatness of innovation in creating them. But it's like let's say that you wrote the Tanya, the book of the Tanya, and someone stole it from you and took credit for it. Would you be upset or not? You wrote the Tanya,
Wow.
okay, not Admor Zaken, and you have the book of Tanya in front
Yeah.
of you,
And I
someone
wrote it.
comes,
Somebody come and
takes it from you, and just publish it under his name, and now go and prove it. What would you do about it? Honestly, tell me.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I would do.
Please, no, you
Okay.
might have a good answer.
If the book was if the Tanya, which is no, is helpful to people.
It is helpful. It's a great book. I mean,
It's a great book,
from
and
the
it's
little
helpful,
bit that I
and it's
know
causing
about it.
great into the world and
Okay.
everything. Then it depends on how much money it makes.
Okay, so it's all about the money.
For sure.
I'm sure you're greater than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but but that's the truth.
Okay, the truth is the truth. That's
The
what
truth
I
is,
care
if
about.
I
care
knew
about the
that
truth.
this Tanya book was that the Tanya is
So
making
that's
hundreds
what-
of millions, and it all could be mine.
So Newton is in a way better
So
than
what?
you. So he didn't care so much about the money, but he cared
But
about.
if it wasn't about the money thing, if it was, this is my next part. If it's nothing about the money, I wouldn't care
Okay.
because it's
so
causing
just
good
about-
into the world.
It's
Because
just-
whatever, who cares? What difference does it make? Who made it? It's greatness that's in the world.
No,
that's distributed.
but
so
you
who
know the
cares?
thing about you have to understand.
But there is listen. Halachic is the idea of copyright and all these different things. But I'm just saying that um, he. I think I'm greater than you when I'm arguing about the money. Because if there's no money involved, I wouldn't care. He is arguing based on his own arrogance.
No.
I'm just arguing because I want more money. I want another nicer house or a nicer
it's not
car.
necessarily arrogance. Arrogance. You see what happened with Newton.
What? So his name can be published in the
No,
newspapers?
no. Listen. Maybe that was part of it, but I can.
I know you like Newton, but these guys, you have to admit that.
What is this to admit here? I'm just
You have
telling
to
you.
admit that they don't learn from everybody.
No, but it's. I'm sure that he
And there would be, imagine how many laws of Newton are there? How many laws?
Three. No.
3 news. Now imagine if he would have just opened his mind and shared his ideas.
And
And,
they had
and
like 5
would have
laws.
had hundreds.
He would
Not
invent
only that, we would be living on Mars.
a new law of nature.
We would be in Mars at the moment. We would have a whole colony. Elon Musk would
Believe me,
shoot a rocket the other week that failed because he would have had everything that he needed.
Rabbi, believe me that what Newton achieved, he managed to push science 2-3 centuries ahead. This is This is alien stuff. I don't believe in aliens, by the way. But I'm just saying for the sake of analogy.
I'm just saying that Ezo Chacham
But who told you that Newton hasn't learned from other people? I'm not
saying he didn't or didn't. I'm just
didn't
saying
care
every single person.
Yes.
I don't know, but I know that discussing with a lot of scientists.
But it is
mathematicians.
A lot of them, but they are small time in comparison.
They don't have time or patience. They don't have time for patience for anybody who's not a scientist.
But today it's not the same. It's not the same. It's all. It's most of it is corporate. It's about the money. It's about let's build an app. Let's do it's the lowest of the low. Come on. In general, we are talking about the lowest of the low. We are not talking about the same caliber of people. I'm sorry. Newton, what he said, it was his greatest achievement. Listen to this. Tell me what you think about it. Yeah. He was a very, very, very devoted Christian. He was also into alchemy, but he was a very godly man. Very, very godly man. And he wrote about, I think, one of the visions. Who was it? Saint Augustine. Something from Christianity.
I don't know anything about.
Yes, I know, but I'm just telling you. He said that was.
All I know, there was a very naughty Jew who started the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. But he said, "You always start everything." The Jews. But he said that this is his greatest achievement, and this is
what's the greatest achievement? What?
Him writing about the so-called New Testament, and he investigated the dimensions of Solomon's temple because he believed that the numbers are divine. You have to understand this was his greatest achievement according to him. Of course, scientists and the world of science disagree because he said, "Come on, man, you invented calculus. You came up with incredible revelations in physics. How can you even say something like that?" But he was such a very religious person. That's what really matters to him. About calculus, just so you understand, I think the people will be interested as well if they are listening. What happened with calculus is that he was such a genius that he invented it just as a tool for his investigation into astronomy. So he didn't care about it. He just invented it and just left it aside. And then one day Leibniz published it as a work, and he said, "What? I've been there before. Sorry, I should get the credit. This is how it started." Between them.
The reason why he thought that his religious accomplishments is because
Because
that's
he's
when there was,
arrogant.
because there
Yeah.
was no self in that. There was no self,
Yeah.
and that's why I consider that his ultimate, his greatest. I think is that he lost himself.
Mm.
You know, yeah, and when you just think about yourself, that makes you depressed. You know, so obviously his greatest achievement is when there's no self,
Yeah. Okay. Good.
in my opinion.
But but also maybe he was not as arrogant. Look, he probably was. I don't think he was a nice. I don't know if nice is the right word to say.
That's a
A pleasant person to hang around with. I think he was
You
pretty
couldn't go
much.
have a beer with him.
I think he was very deep into his own thoughts and
That's
ideas
it,
and
exactly. I'm saying
investigation.
that's exactly.
Fine, okay, but there is nothing wrong about it either. It doesn't mean necessarily. But that might be the character. It doesn't make him anything bad, you know.
No, so that, I think first of all, I do think there's something wrong with it. I do think there's something wrong. If you don't want to share and learn from others,
No, I don't say. I don't think that he
and
did.
when you think that your thoughts are the ultimate,
No, his thoughts
and the
proved
be all
to
and
be.
end all,
But he proved.
it doesn't make a
It's a
difference.
fact. It's
I
a
know,
fact
but
that his
the
thoughts
fact that his
were
thoughts
absolutely
were, the fact that his thoughts, the fact
original
that
and
these thoughts,
groundbreaking.
by the way, just these thoughts, not every thought he had,
Yeah,
you know.
I understand. What a debate about Newton, huh?
Yeah, even though I never met the man,
Yeah,
never
never.
asked to meet him. Hey, do you think he'll come for Shabbat?
Yeah.
Was he
He was
Jewish?
a very no, it was very religious man, Christian, but very religious, and a lot of them were. Descartes was Pascal, the geniuses of the time. You know, they lived more or less in different eras, but
Yeah.
pretty close to each other. And they were very religious people.
Yeah. So you see, I think from counting the days, making the days count,
Mm-hmm.
you know, making them, making each day and every single second count,
Mm-hmm.
has to come with a bit of humility and letting other people to contribute to your day. That it can't be when you go now and do these repetitions, um, you know, just be for yourself. There has to be this element of learning from others.
Okay, it's okay. I'm not against it.
I never said you were.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
just making a conclusion.
Okay. We will conclude it very well.
So
Thank you, Abi.
till next time,
And see you.
we'll see you.